Hi, I'm Mayor Kim Driscoll, and in getting to know a little bit about Salem City government, I'm pleased to be joined this afternoon by the Director of Planning and Development, Lynn Duncan. We're going to talk a little bit about some of the activities taking place in the Planning and Development Office and some of the most exciting things that are happening in Salem. Planning and Development plays a big role in. So, Lynn, thanks for being here this afternoon, and glad that we can talk to our viewers here in Salem about some of the exciting things that are happening in Salem.
Great to be here.
Thought we'd kick it off talking about downtown revitalization. Over the last few years, we've certainly seen an uptick in the business activity in Salem. Despite the downturn in the economy, there are lots of new retailers, lots of new restaurants. Maybe we can talk a little bit about how that came about. I know we worked early on looking at a downtown visioning session, hired an economic development planner to really work with us and develop an action plan, and we're sort of reaping some of the seeds of that success now.
We are. The goal of that downtown retail study was really to have a blueprint for action for downtown. And many of the recommendations are what we are seeing coming to fruition. So such as bringing housing downtown, expanding retail and dining options, and providing pedestrian amenities, and really capitalizing on the city's historic character.
It really is nice to have the downtown consist of a neighborhood. So we've seen certainly a number of newer residential units coming online, whether you're thinking about something like Derby Lofts, which used to be a really underutilized commercial building, to something as new construction like the corner of the Salem News building, where the old Salem News building, I should say, where we have mixed use, both a restaurant, some retail, and some residents. Can we, as we think about that plan, the dynamics mean we've got more retailers that aren't just focused on tourism and visitors, and I think that's created some of the vibrancy as well.
Absolutely, and in fact, when our consultant did the downtown retail plan, the biggest trade area is actually residents who live in the region, not tourists, although tourists are certainly a great icing on the cake. So as we've implemented those recommendations, we've seen that downtown Salem is really running contrary to a lot of the experiences of other communities during this economic downturn. So over just the past year, 2010, and we're not quite done with it yet,
right.
We've seen 9 new restaurants, we've seen 12 new retailers come online. This represents actually over 200 new jobs just in downtown alone.
I think one of the more heartening aspects of this initiative from my perspective is we're also seeing these housing units not sitting vacant. I mean, they're being occupied. When we think about the Salem jail, are really tough projects. You know, all of the projects that are left are the hard ones. So you've got an old jail building infrastructure that's kind of hard to work with. We've got a good development team in place, and now we've got residents there with some other mixed uses involved as well. But most importantly, they're rented up.
Yeah, it's great. And just in the last, since 2006, so really the last 4 or 5 years, we've seen 500 new residential developments downtown. The old Salem jail, of course, is really our pride and joy.
Right.
So that was a public-private partnership, and actually just recently won one of the national prestigious award for historic preservation. So it's great to see that. Even as I personally drive into work every day and drive past that complex.
At night, it looks beautiful. So as we're seeing these housing units come online, to the point that we worked on with the economic development vision, having retailers and having folks in town to support those retailers, sort of a chicken and egg theory, but we've got toy shops now, we've got more restaurants than I think any place else on the North Shore, and that nucleus is, I think, made for a great downtown lifestyle and a terrific living environment.
And in fact, 2 years ago, the American Planning Association designated downtown Salem as a great neighborhood. We competed with cities and neighborhoods across the country. So it's great to have the combination of residents downtown, employment downtown with the new court building,
right.
The expansion of the Peabody Essex Museum. It's just been a great mix.
Yeah, and certainly for us going forward, looking at the MBTA train station and the additional parking as a big sort of cherry on top to make sure that we have the infrastructure from a public transportation need that we know is so helpful in supporting residential development. It also helps with some of the congestion we see from traffic and parking within the city as well. So some exciting things certainly taking place within the downtown district, and more to follow, I think, as we're certainly not done.
Yeah, it's great. If I might just take this opportunity, this is really an early plug for the visioning work that we're going to be doing, working with your office and working with the stakeholders and residents. While downtown has really experienced this resurgence, the piece that seems to be a little bit behind is the Essex Street pedestrian mall. So certainly we've identified issues with it's hard to walk on the cobblestone, the signage, the landscaping doesn't seem to be in the right place. It's 40 years old, it's a little tired. So we're going to be starting a series of public forums in January to see how people would like to see the pedestrian mall redesigned.
Great opportunity to take what something is nice and hopefully try and improve it even more. And something we know that at 40 years old, it's definitely showing its age. And so some ways we can improve it. That dialogue will start after the first of the year. And I think one of the strengths we've certainly seen coming together in Salem is a real team approach between the city, the redevelopment authority, the Chamber of Commerce, our Salem Main Streets program, the Salem Partnership, and a number of key stakeholders, whether it's the museum or other property owners downtown, who are all working towards the same goal, which is to continue that vibrancy. And I think the pedestrian mall piece is just another sort of step along the way, and looking forward to, I think, a healthy dialogue about what's in a city's best interest, both short and long term. We know there are some safety issues out there that we want to try and work on, or infrastructure issues that need to be amended, but at the same time, we have a chance to really make it even a more vibrant corridor than it already is. So that'll be fun. So maybe we can leave downtown for a second and talk a little bit about the waterfront, because I think the other thing that we're spending certainly a lot of time on is trying to recognize our waterfront and how much we can do to enliven those activities. 4 years ago, we didn't have a Salem ferry carrying 100,000 passengers between Boston and Salem. It's been a wonderful amenity, but we've got some plans beyond that, and maybe we can talk a little bit about those.
Sure. The other big piece, of course, will be the new Salem Wharf. So that is really some really exciting developments recently with that. People may have read about the acquisition of the Blaney Street site by the City of Salem from Dominion, so that will really position us to be able to make improvements. The city just received 2 different grants, one for $1 million and another for $2.5 million. So we'll be doing landside improvements to actually get that parking lot paved in advance of the coming season in 2011, and also begin to do some work on the new wharf itself.
Yeah, I think what's exciting about the waterfront, I always say, in Salem, we don't have access to a highway. We don't directly have Route 128 or Route 95, but we have this wonderful deep water port. So that's our highway, that's our Route 128. And given our history and how much our fortunes as a community were tied to the harbor and the waterfront, it's great to kind of go back in time a little and recycle that effort. Whether it's the Salem Ferry and the cruise ship terminal at Salem Wharf, as you've talked about, we definitely see that project getting off the ground this spring with some activity taking place to augment what we're already doing there. Or even the South River Walkway, which is closer to the downtown. There's a new walkway that links the Central Business District with the waterfront as you're heading out to Pickering Wharf, and now private property owners are continuing that investment.
Yeah, so this is great. So we just recently had, the celebration of Salem's Harbor Walk, which goes from New Derby Street behind the Beverly Cooperative Bank, and then along that bank of the South River out to Congress Street. And now Hess Gas Station on the other side of the South River is putting the finishing touches on their portion of the Harbor Walk. So while it isn't quite connected, it's the next piece and really completing that vision of a walkway along the entire South River Basin.
It's exciting because that area is the closest to the Central Business District, whether it's folks who are working. I know a lot of folks at Shetland are now routinely walking downtown. It's a lot easier to get from point A to point B when you can take a leisurely stroll along the river. The second piece, obviously, is the private sector continuing that loop, but we're also looking to dredge that area and the channel that leads in where the Friendship is, so we can see transient slips, maybe a small boat marina, opportunities to really enhance our waterfront access as well. I mean, it's a great recreational walk, and I know a lot of the residents in Derby Lofts have said, this is just fantastic, to be able to look out your window or use it, as a walking path.
One of the great things during the Harbor Walk celebration when you did the ribbon cutting was that there were actually kayakers in the water, and that looks so great just to have that being actively used. Of course, we did have to time it around high tide, so hopefully if we're able to do dredging in the future, it won't be such a time-sensitive expedition.
It's always a big bonus when we're working along the waterfront because it doesn't only allow for the economic activity. When we think about the Salem Wharf project and bringing in cruise ships, we know that that's about a $62 million economic development a promotion to not only Salem but the North Shore Regional, if that's anticipated, to the North Shore region. But when you do these waterfront projects, you get the added bonus of it being a great quality of life amenity. Right. So having harbor walks, places for people to walk is just fantastic. So a couple of exciting initiatives, one downtown, another focused on the waterfront. It's great to have Lynn Duncan from the Planning and Development Office talk with us about that. The P&D, as I like to call it, is the glue in Salem, whether it's historic preservation, planning, or economic development. It all normally ends up in the Planning and Development Office. So glad to be here and talk a little bit about some of the exciting initiatives taking place that they're a part of.